Hello again, Coach Brian with Northwest Elite Spirit, and today I'd like to begin sharing with you a series I'm calling We Don't Talk About Bruno. And what is around is the idea that the black sheep in the family, or someone who speaks out against things that are not good for the family, will be ostracized and painted as a negative person. And I've experienced this in my own life, and thinking about that movie um, kind of triggered this idea for me. Um, I was called negative over something that where I was being honest and open, and I was like, oh, I this was just like that movie. And then I had flashbacks to like my life, being that guy who always was willing to speak out and make some predictions. I think prophecy is the catalyst for, or honesty is the catalyst for prophecy, and that also kind of ties into that movie. So there was a lot of theft, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and later on I found out sexual abuse in my family. The thievery wasn't really like something you weren't allowed to talk about, but you were not allowed to like not have those people in your life. Like those people would be forced on you, and you would be stolen from, no matter what. So for the longest time, I just remember that my uncles and aunts, if they were going to come over to your house, you were to like lock your things away and keep them away from things, and you were not supposed to like do any trading with them or anything like that. I guess it, like when I started realizing that sort of stuff for myself was when my brother and I started collecting baseball cards, and we were told not to do business with a certain uncle because he would scam you out of your cards, and we did learn that. We were excited about trading cards, um, and he had a card shop, and so we did a little business with him, and he scammed us, and we learned. But what we also learned is that he will go in your room or into your private area, and he will take things if he can't trick you into getting them. If he can't trick you out of them, he will take them. And so like we grew up with that, and it was to feed like a gambling problem and an alcohol problem. I had other uncles with like um, drug problems, alcohol problems, and other problems. And we had an aunt who was just a kleptomaniac. I think I don't exactly know what her issues were, other than she stole stuff. And so, like we went through this all as a kid. Then as an adult, I got married, and then I had a divorce, and it was a hard divorce, and I had a hard time after that, and I ended up renting a house from my aunt. She was helping us out, and while we're renting that house, I had this uncle, and he was one of the thieving uncles, but it looked like he was turning his life around. He had started a business, like construction business, and he was like throwing me work, and then he was getting on some work that I had going on, and I was really hoping the best for him. And one day he tells me that his truck is broken down, and he needs to borrow mine so we can go get some equipment. And again, I knew had been a thief for a long time, and but I thought he was doing better, so I lent him my truck. One day goes by, 2 days go by, 3 days go by. Finally called the police and like, hey, truck has been stolen. Technically, I lent it to him, so it's not stolen, and they can't do anything about it. So I just start hunting for it. I start calling around, seeing if he's in jail. I think I found out that he was in Thurston County Jail, but still no idea where my truck was. He'd been arrested on a warrant. So I'm driving around Olympia, like just trying to like figure out where my truck might be. And I see a police officer in a Safeway parking lot just by happenstance, and I go to him and I say, hey, like, do you have any idea about like this guy and this truck? And it just so happened that he was the officer who had arrested my uncle on a warrant in that parking lot. Still had no idea where the keys were. So I, you know, go home, start doing a little hunting around. I find out that a couple friends of my uncles were driving around in my truck, and I find out like their address, and I go and like hunt their neighborhood. Can't quite find that address, but I find the neighborhood. Driving around, can't find it. Go home, kind of like sit on it, mull it over for a bit, and I get a notice in the mail from a tow yard that my truck is there. It's going to cost me $835 to get out. Drive to Olympia, get my truck out of tow or out of the tow yard, and they give me the story about what happened. Somehow, some of his friends, he probably handed it to him, ended up with my keys. They went and robbed a convenience store, and were involved in a chase. My truck's all jacked up, suspension just jacked up from them like hitting curbs and stuff. Windows smashed out from the police smashing the window and ripping somebody out of there. Get my truck back, down $835 for the tow, down whatever money I missed for work. Then so I'm not able to pay rent at the time. Get a call a few days after I get my truck back. Hey, we're sending this uncle to the house, the same uncle that stole my truck or borrowed my truck. We're sending him to the house for him to do some work. And I'm like, no, don't send him to the house. Like, he's gonna steal something like he always does. Like, you guys know this. This goes into that thing where in my family, you are getting stolen from. Like, they're gonna make sure of it. It's not your house. It's your aunt's house. She's sending him over, and that's that. Argue a little more, and I think it's over. Get back to doing some work. Come home, and we have wrestling mats on our living room floor because we practice jiu-jitsu, and we would never wear our shoes on the mats, but there's boot prints on the mats going over to our saving spot. And I'm like, damn it, like they sent him over. I just know it. Go over, check my savings. The majority of the savings are gone. Call him up. Hey, did you send him over here? Yeah, we send him over there. Well, no, the savings are gone, and like I'm already not paying you guys rent, like, and now I have even less money. So like why would you send him over? Getting to that little thing, but there's no talking to these people. So not long after that, get evicted because you're not paying rent, right? Which actually being evicted out of there was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I couch jumped a little bit after that, but I just kept finding myself around like toxic people and ended up homeless. Went and slept out in the woods and in rest stops and things like this for a while. Little places I had found hidden while I was out and about doing my thing, like exploring the world, hiking, camping. Eventually get my own place. It's a nice place. And I say to my mom, because my mom now, she's sick and she's getting ready to pass away. And this is again like due to like her lifestyle, not just like being around thieves and stuff like that, but like drugs, alcohol, eating bad things. I guess gossip, because people who are unhappy and gossipy, I think you can get sick around them. So you can move in here, we'll take care of you, but like the thieves and the child molesters and the child molester enablers and the thieving enablers, they're not allowed over here. And we'll get into that into these other parts of the videos where we don't talk about Bruno, because anybody who's grown up in a household or a family with sexual abuse, you do not talk about those things. So anyway, Mom, she decides to live with this aunt, the one who was renting to us. And one day, my brother and I, we get a call, like, you need to come see your mom. We found her. She had, like, a bloody nose, and she was, like, hiding it, and she's not really talking about it. So we go and we see her, and again, she's not really talking about it. I think these caretakers suspected abuse, but they didn't say it. You don't talk about it because they were like close family friends, right? And they were receiving help too from the family. Mom wasn't being really clear about what went on. She just didn't want to be there anymore. So we're like talking to her about things that are going on, and then we find out the trading card uncle, while she was at a doctor's appointment, had gone into her room, and now a bunch of her money is missing. Right? So okay, it looks like she's being abused. They're stealing from her still. Like, she's gonna come move in with me. And a lot of these people, they want to still come over. They're like, well, so can we come over now? And I'm like, no. And that turned into a whole like thing where people are like threatening me and stuff like that. Because like you don't get to not be stolen from. You do not get to like not have sexual abuse going on around you. So this guy is stolen from her, right? And we get here, and this was early November. Get her over here. Thanksgiving, he calls and he's like, "Happy Thanksgiving," you know. I'm like, wow, and we're having a hard time in Thanksgiving because we're taking care of mom, and we're not wealthy people. We have our own money issues still. And then like for Christmas too, he calls for Christmas and he's like, "Merry Christmas," and my mom's like, "Oh, thank you," and all that, and like she's having like this conversation with them, and she knows that he stole from her. And then so I was thinking about like our lives, like our whole lives. I remember having like hard holidays. Like we had this Christmas where it was just really like a stick, like broken off a tree, and it's sticking in this pile of, I don't even remember what it was. But that was our Christmas. She's like bawling, and I just remember her crying during lots of holidays. And then I remember these people always stealing from us and always calling on the holidays, and they would like literally they would brag about like what they had bought themselves or what they had bought in their kids and stuff. And I'm like, wow, that was on my mom's dime. Probably not just her, because they would steal from everybody. And that was like one of the reasons that they weren't allowed over here. But when I would try to talk to people about it, they just weren't having it. We don't talk about it. You don't talk about it. This is just the way it is, and you just have to accept it. And there's nothing you can do about it. And if you do try to do something about it, you will be rejected outright. You'll be kicked out of the family. And eventually, I was told something like that by my grandma: "If you don't like it, leave." And that's what I did. And that caused a lot of stuff in the family too. But that, like, I think growing up like that put me in this frame of mind where I don't talk about it, and since I didn't talk about it, couldn't really like articulate it, and I couldn't really express it. But I think it put me in this frame of mind that anything good that I would gain would be taken away, and I did live my life like that. Like I've had a lot of good things happen in my life, but I've let them get away from me, and I think it's wrapped around this idea of growing up that anything good would be taken away. And so now I want to talk about it. I want to talk about Bruno. I want to talk about like the things that happen in your life that can affect the future. Like you can see what will happen to you if things keep going down this way. So right now I'm encouraging you, and I'm working on this myself, is to start talking about the things in your life that you weren't allowed to talk about, and start thinking about how it's affected you and the way you approach life now, your failures and your successes. Are you allowed to, like deep down, are you allowing yourself to success, or do you have these ideas in your head that you weren't allowed to talk about but were just forced upon you anyway? So go ahead and like this video, share this video, but most importantly, comment like what's going on in your head that was put there either by it's like incessant programming where they did talk about it, and like this is what you're going to do, this is how it is, or the things that you weren't allowed to talk about, and so you don't really know how to express, but it's in there. Again, Coach Brian here at Northwest Elite Spirit. Like, share, and most importantly, comment. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about Bruno. Thank you.